I'm feeling like Magellan, so let's circumnavigate Admiralty Inlet, but by transit. I just hope it goes better for me than it did for him. I'm here at Westlake Station to catch Sound Transit's Link Light Rail. Let's boop, walk down to the platform, and wait for that train. Once it arrives, I board, find a comfortable seat, and settle in as we're going to the end of the line. Technically, this video should be named something like Circumnavigating Admiralty Inlet and sections of the Central Basin, Whidbey Basin, and a tad of Hood Canal. But who wants a title like that? Since Seattle lies on the Elliott Bay in the Central Basin, I need to head north as Admiralty Inlet lies between Whidbey Island and the northeast section of the Olympic Peninsula and is the primary entrance into Puget Sound. It's currently about 5 a.m., early for even my standards, but I'm looking forward to this transit-filled day. 10 different rides across 7 different agencies, 5 different modes, with time to explore one of the best preserved historic towns in the Pacific Northwest? What could go wrong? It's a pretty dang quiet ride on the 2 line. Makes sense, it's only the second run on the line this morning. Although, the southbound platforms look like they are already getting decent ridership. Breaking out of the tunneled section and into the twilight dawn is kind of magical. After about 35 minutes basking in the morning glow, it's time to get up, out of my seat, and deboard at Lynnwood City Center Station. I've mentioned before that I'm a big fan of the station. Even at 5:30 a.m., it's a lively place. The coffee kiosk is already open, individuals are streaming to the light rail platform, and I'm honestly a bit shocked at how many people are waiting for the Sound Transit Express 515 to Seattle. Lynnwood City Center Station is a great place to foam as it sees service from Sound Transit's Link 1 and 2 lines, as well as the express bus routes 512, 513, 515, and 535. Community Transit also serves the station with its Swift Orange line and routes 102, 103, 112, 114, 120, 130, 166, 201, 202, 901, 903, 904, 905, and the reason I'm here, Route 117. I get myself to Bay 3 plenty early as this route often uses those double-decker Enviros, and I want to make sure that I get that upstairs front view. I should have known that I used up all of my luck with these clear skies, as it's a new Flyer Excelsior. I can't be too upset. I still get that prime wheel well seat. Route 117 travels between here at Lynnwood City Center Station to Mukilteo Station and Ferry Terminal via the Alderwood Mall. Semi-surprisingly, the bus has a handful of passengers as we leave the station. Using Alderwood Mall Boulevard and its frontage road alignment, I see mostly freeway, but also a section of the interurban trail here. We turn north on Alderwood Mall Parkway, passing the mall and other various associated commercial businesses, before turning to merge onto Highway 525. After crossing over Highway 99, Highway 525 loses its access-restricted design to just become a full-blown stroad. And it begins to use the Mukilteo Speedway moniker. Is that something we should be encouraging here? We begin to pass behind the backside of Payne Field with the occasional plane tail popping up from behind the berm. The road begins to narrow as we start to descend towards Mukilteo. During peak times, it wouldn't be uncommon to start to see the car queue for the ferry even this far back. Puget Sound's Whidbey Basin gleams in front of me as we cross over the BNSF rail tracks and turn right onto First Street. I ended up getting off a stop early at Mukilteo Station just to take a quick look, but then I remember that the ferry I'm here to catch is about to leave. I speed walk up the block and up the stairs. The terminal building looks really sharp and I wish I had more time to check it out. Technically, I do, but the boat is right there and it's singing to me like a siren, lulling me to boop and board. Today, the Olympic-class MV Tokitae will be taking me across Possession Sound to Clinton on Whidbey Island. In the Chinook jargon language, Tokitae means nice day, pretty colors, and it's incredibly fitting. The ferry has everything you need for the short 20-minute crossing. There is a galley selling the standard food and beverage, plenty of seats and tables, restrooms, tons of glorious windows, and even this fun control station to pretend that I'm the captain now. I don't ride this line frequently enough to know if this is normal or not, but the sun deck itself was closed. I tried every stairwell to find a way, but I make do with what I got here. From here we have great views of the Whidbey Basin section of Puget Sound. Possession Sound stretches out before us. From east to west, we are able to see parts of Everett and Tulalip, Hat Island, Camano Island, and where we're currently headed, Whidbey Island. Looking to the south, we can see the mainland there and also the southern tip of Whidbey, meaning Admiralty Inlet would be just around that bend. I'll see your waters soon enough. Soon the Clinton ferry dock lies directly in front of us. The announcement plays for drivers to return to their cars and for us walk-ons to make our way down to the car deck. The ramp gets lowered and I make my way towards the terminal building. Island Transit is the transit agency for, well, Island County. They provide service directly to the front door of the ferry terminal with its routes 1, 58, 60, and the town circulator, the Clinton Connector. I padded my schedule a bit in case any vehicles were late, so I have about 40 minutes here. There isn't much at the dock itself, as much as the town is a bit away up on the bluff, but there is a private beach and a small coffee stand on one side, and the public Clinton Beach Park on the other. It was about time for me to get into that caffeine packed in my bag while I passed the time watching the Island Transit minibuses do their thing while the ferry loads up and departs back across the channel. Time seems to fly by, and I figure I should check out the terminal itself before my next ride. Benches, ticket machines, brochure mania, restrooms? Not half bad, but I should make my way out to the stop. It's kind of impressive how many riders are here waiting to board. Island Transit has been an entirely fare-free system since its inception in 1987, and taking a car on the ferry is expensive, and due to geography, parking at the dock is limited. So I suppose it makes sense. The driver wrapped up their brake, opened the doors, and we all flooded in. I'm so distracted by the excitement of a new agency, I sit in the wrong seat. This is a 2011 Gillig. This won't do. Oh yes, much better back here with the Gillig bar. The driver pulls up to the actual stop in front of the terminal before leaving the dock. This is Island Transit's Route 1. This service traverses much of the island from north to south, stretching from Oak Harbor to Clinton via Bayview, Freeland, and where I'll be alighting, Coupeville. It is important to note that the southbound and northbound routings are significantly different in some sections. We make a small deviation around the Clinton Food Mart before joining back up with Highway 525, of which we will be on for most of this 46-minute journey. Much of the island is fairly rural, with woods and farms covering the land, although there are nodes of activity here and there. With that said, let's take a few seconds to bask in the sounds of a Gillig cruising down the highway. I gotta say, Hanover, your logo kind of looks like that of a comic book evil corporation. Besides that, I love everything else about these displays. Honoring the various drivers was cool, and heck, I even learned that my next ride became a fixed route service just with the spring service change. Informative. The individual reading lights are pretty spiffy too. As the bus continues along through Bayview and towards Freeland, we are continually stopping to pick up passengers, even at the most random of places along the high-speed road. I don't know what I was expecting, but 16 ons during my ride was not it. Good job, Island Transit. When we reach Freeland, we deviate a street over to go through the small town area before returning to the freeway to proceed north. As soon as we enter Greenbank, the trees open up for sights of the Saratoga Passage and Camano Island. I guess that's all it took to officially win me over. Highway 525 turns into Highway 20 and the forests clear out for farms and fields. Moo! With very little transition, we enter the city of Coupeville. Quite a few riders deport, and then my stop is literally just around the corner at Coupeville Park and Ride. Dang! That was a great ride. I have high hopes for the next Island Transit ride. I only have to walk a bit across the street and wait for the stop near Coupeville Elementary. Little tidbit about Coupeville: Practical Magic starring Nicole Kidman and Sandy B was filmed in the cute town section right on Penn Cove. As the movie was set in the Northeast, they just painted all the buildings white for filming. If I had more time, I'd explore, but my Island Transit Route 6 is pulling on up. I knew it had to happen at some point, but it's our first cutaway of the trip. A 2019 Glaval Legacy on a Freightliner chassis. Island Transit's Route 6 connects Oak Harbor with Coupeville and where I'm headed to on this 10-minute or so trip, the Coupeville Ferry Terminal. We head south on Engle Road past a grocer, the high school, and a couple beautiful old homes before the development ends and cheese and rice, the view makes me gasp. The first sighting of Admiralty Inlet on the trip so far. The farms are pretty nice too. To no fault of Island Transit, this ride is a bit stanky, and not in a fun way like Britney Spears' dubstep phase. But the views keep going. Fort Casey State Park lies near the ferry terminal. In the 1890s, Admiralty Inlet was so strategic that the US government built 3 fortresses to thwart any invasion by sea, known as the Triangle of Fire. I don't have time to explore this one today, but maybe there will be another one. As the minibus pulls up to my stop at the Coupeville ferry terminal, they are already loading the vehicles. I make my way through the very small but well-equipped terminal. I boop as all Washington state ferries except Orca and wait for instruction from the staff. Today's vessel is the Quadi-Tabeel class ferry, the MV Salish. It was built in Washington and entered service in 2011. I make my way up the stairs through the narrow but quiet second floor before climbing up to the main passenger deck to beeline directly towards the front. If anyone were to ask, I would tell them it makes me feel like a Viking to have my hair blown in the wind. But inside, I actually might feel a bit more like Jack and Rose. Once the captain lets her rip, it's time to explore. Even though the layout is different than Tokitae that I rode earlier, the vibes are spot on Washington Ferry. Big clean windows everywhere, plenty of seats and tables, clean restrooms, a galley with a lot of grab and go options. But the sun deck is calling me again. I can't refuse it, especially as it's the star of this whole journey, Admiralty Inlet. At its narrowest point right over yonder, it's only 6 kilometers or 3.7 miles wide and is responsible for 98% of the entire tidal flow into Puget Sound. Almost all vessels must use this channel, as Deception Pass and the Swinomish Channel are much too narrow. From here you can also see the full Triangle of Fire. Fort Casey on Whidbey Island there, Fort Worden on the Quimper Peninsula there, and then looking south there is Fort Flagler on the northern end of Marrowstone Island. After what felt like a quick 30 minutes, the snow-capped Olympic Mountains and the charming old buildings of Port Townsend are in full view. The announcement comes on overhead and it's time to get down to the car deck to deboard. The post office looks simply spectacular looking over us. So, it's not even 9:30 a.m. yet, and the next leg of the circumnavigation journey doesn't leave until 2:48 p.m. I have over 5 hours to explore this gem of the region. First, I gotta watch that ferry depart, of course. Water Street is the street that runs along, well, the water. It is a National Historic District lined with many pre-1900 buildings. Port Townsend was originally called the City of Dreams based on speculation that it would become the largest harbor on the West Coast. The Northern Pacific Railroad reached Tacoma by 1873, and many thought it would be extended to the tip of Puget Sound. But the Panic of 1893 was a total buzzkill for the town. Northern Pacific wasn't going to extend the railroad here, and the town shrank and investors fled. New artillery fortifications for the army and a new paper mill were built to stop a total collapse, but the city never reached its dream potential. The one blessing from such a long economic depression for the city is that much of the historic structures weren't demolished for new development. Now a cafe is located in the old customs house, and a Dutch store is in the old telephone exchange building. There are also plenty of pocket parks and beaches along the way, like this beautiful spot across the street from the oldest continuously used city hall in the state. At the end of the road lies the Maritime Center. It's a pretty lively place today, although these two were the true life of the party. At this point, I really didn't have a plan besides the one thing that we'll get to later, so I just let my feet take me wherever. Destiny brought me to this hardcore mural at the athletic fields. Before long, I huffed and I puffed and I climbed those stairs there. Just a few seconds late to get a near-perfect shot of the Jefferson transit vehicle below. A block over is Port Townsend's Fire Bell Tower. Built in 1890 to house the 1,500-pound brass bell and the then new $900 fire engine, it is self-proclaimed to be the last remaining wooden fire bell tower in the nation. Time is flying by and I look up the schedule for Jefferson Transit's Route 2 to Fort Worden. I could wait for the 11 shuttle to pick me up, but it's a nice day and I have the time to walk. Oh my, the mural was onto something. This deer is staring me down, and it has a friend. I let them know I come in peace and keep on walking. Look there are more. But, respecting the deer, I keep on my way. I pass the 1913 Carnegie Library, which has the largest circulation per capita of any library in the state as of 2023. As I near Tokitae Prairie, I officially made a friend. Their name is Jeffrey, with a G. A few minutes later, I reach the Route 2 stop. I was a little shocked to see a 2025 Gillig EV showing up. Not that I'm complaining at all. Route 2 is a one-way loop with hourly service across its span of service, serving the main transit center, Fort Worden, and downtown Port Townsend. Pretty decent ridership on here as well. We first cruise through a beautiful residential area before turning on Admiralty Avenue, and then it connects with W Street before looping into Fort Worden and my stop at Eisenhower Avenue. Fort Worden is now a state park, and many of its historic buildings were transformed into museums, offices, a community college branch, artist residences, cafes, and more. I have my eyes on the prize, though, to get to that northern tip of Admiralty Inlet. Time to get moving. Jeffrey! What are you doing here, bud? Even though we're besties, I back away slowly to respect the deer. I turn the bend north on Harbor Defense Way and I see the Point Wilson Lighthouse way out on the end. Time to get to steppin'. After passing the Marine Science Center Aquarium and the Cable House Canteen, I know I can't resist the beach. My shoes may fill with sand, but was I even here if I don't leave my footprints on the beach? Hard to believe I almost have the whole beach to myself on this 70-degree day. As I make my way to the point, it's breathtaking. Mount Rainier can be seen to the south of Admiralty Inlet, Mount Baker across the channel, and the Strait of Juan de Fuca. I make my way around the historic lighthouse, and once again, Admiralty Inlet, Strait of Juan de Fuca. Following the beach west, I stumble to some of the old batteries built to house the artillery at the time. Cool? Yes, but also incredibly creepy. Battery Kinsey is especially interesting. Kind of cool to walk around in, but I also packed my bag for a day on transit, not for the potential zombie apocalypse that may reside inside the dark corridors. I tried and noped right out of there. I'll appreciate it from the outside. I need to shake this off. How about a view of Admiralty Inlet, Juan de Fuca, and oh, Canada? Yeah, that hit the spot. Okay, time to head back towards the bus stop. Leaving the batteries behind, I make my way through the campground using the nice paved paths. I climb my way back up the bluff and head through the old-timey buildings. It's surprisingly active back here. Cool to see these structures in use. The community center is even hosting some event. I pass a radio station and the artist residences before walking by the duplexes individuals can rent from the state park, before I loop all the way back around to the old commander quarters. Being on the move for over 8 hours at this point is catching up with me, so I find some shade near the bus stop, have a brief picnic, and take a quick cat nap. But the bus is about here. The same driver and vehicle pick me up and I take my seat. The seating setup for this Gillig EV is really spacious. I'm going to take this route almost to its end. On the way back to town, we get great views of the Sound and the Quimper Peninsula before we cross through the Uptown neighborhood, past the Fire Bell Tower, and loop back west via Washington Street. We pass the Holler Steps, the post office, and the majestic courthouse with a nice park in front that people actually use. I pull the cord and get off at the following stop. I wanted to take a walk through one more park, and look what I saw. Be careful out there. I turn off through the path and the Tokitae Lagoon lurks just beyond. It's really pretty, even if it smells like decaying matter. Finally, I make my way to Haines Place Park and Ride. This is the center of Jefferson Transit's network and the home to their offices. It's decently set up with a few bays, restrooms, and there is even some fast food and a grocer across the street. It could use a little bit more shade, but not a bad place to wait. After about 30 minutes of hanging around fanning over the vehicles, including the one particular historic shuttle-themed bus, my next ride begins to pull up. It's a 2013 Champion Cutaway on a Ford F550 chassis that operates Jefferson Transit's Route 14, the Kingston Express. The route currently operates 3 times a day in each direction to the ferry terminal in Kingston. Even this service is free. So, I greet the driver and take my seat in the back. Cushy. We exit the transit center and meet up with West Sims Way to make our way out of town. That turns into Highway 20 and we proceed down to our next stop at Four Corners Park and Ride, which doubles as the agency's bus base. We pick up multiple more passengers here and I'm once again pleasantly surprised by the ridership. As such, I give it the stubby thumb of approval. The bus makes its way through the farming community of Chimicum before farms and woods take over. We then pass through Beaver Valley and meet up with Highway 104. Wow, the Dungeness line. I need to do that sometime. Moments later, the fjord-like Hood Canal comes into view, and before I know it, we are crossing it via the third longest floating bridge in the world, the Hood Canal Bridge. This also means we are officially at the southern end of Admiralty Inlet. We pass through the quaint, unincorporated area of Port Gamble and its bay before we merge with Highway 307 on our way through Kingston. First through the typical highway section, and then its cute port area. Once again, the bus stops directly in front of the terminal. Here, I have a choice. I could take the Washington State Ferry to Edmonds or Kitsap Transit's fast ferry to downtown Seattle. Pretty obvious decision if you ask me. Kitsap Transit is part of the Orca program, so no need for me to buy a ticket before boarding. I make my way down the pier, and just as I get to the waiting spot, the boat is unloading from its past trip. I get great views of the vessels around me before I'm good to board. At the end of the pier, I boop and board the MV Solano. I always immediately look for a sun deck, but there isn't one on here. Lots of airline-style seating though, and some booths and tables. This one has some juice that I desperately need, so I'll look out of these salt-sprayed windows for now. With a top speed of 32 knots, it only takes about 40 minutes to get to Pier 50 on the Seattle waterfront. This point of view of a cruise ship really shows how massive they are. We make our way towards Elliott Bay with the mountain guiding our way. The ferry begins to turn in Seattle's beautiful skyline as they are rising out of the bay. Seattle looks best when arriving by water. Just as a Washington State ferry leaves its dock, we arrive at ours. I gather my things and feel a sense of accomplishment as this journey is almost done. I leave the ferry and walk the length of the fast ferry terminal with its long line of people ready to board. The Seattle waterfront is absolutely poppin' in the sunny afternoon weather. I cross Alaskan Way to wait for a bus to take me on this last short leg. Almost instantly, a Sea Line New Flyer pulls up and I take a seat next to the absolutely scratched-to-heck windows. We climb up the hill to 3rd Avenue and turn north on the busway. After almost exactly 12 hours, 10 rides, 7 agencies, and a cost of $20.10, I'm almost done. Moments later, we are pulling up to my stop at Pike Street. I just have to walk about 3 blocks and there it is, Westlake Station. What a fantastic day. Totally would do it again. Look, another bus. May as well get on that one.